What's happening, guys, and welcome to the Social Work Race again. I'm a social worker on the run, on the move. I'm in between long journeys at the moment, and I was supposed to be live last night. Today is the 25th, I think it is, and I was supposed to be live, not the 25th, the 19th. Who knows, 20th, I'm not even sure, but I was supposed to be live last night with a care leaver. Wow, she is making headway on TikTok, and she's been brave enough to share her life story as someone who's grown up in care. Her name is Shania Ray, S-H-A-N-I, yeah, W-R-A-Y, Shania Ray on TikTok, I think, yeah, and on Instagram as well. Check her out, she deserves the follow. She is really articulate about her life experience and gives a really interesting breakdown. And it's great learning for people coming up, a good breakdown of how social services works. And I think if you want to learn how to social work really well, listen to her TikToks. She is really good. But let me get back to it. I want to talk to you about some... I'm going to TikTok about this. I'm going to record a really kind of intense, kind of semi-documentary style video on this topic. And this is only a part of the wider topic, all right? And I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, but let's throw a topic on it, because it's really to do with a level of racism and discrimination on the part of the service user. Okay, yeah, look, I'm going to go into it. I haven't planned it. It's just in my head. And I'm going to give it to you on the go, all right? Don't worry, Bluetooth and all that, hands-free, let's do this. So, I've had a few experiences. I work in a, how can I put it? I don't like to use common terms, but I work in a not so diverse area, ethnically diverse area. And so I'm a black man, black male social worker of West Indian origin. And so that is a unique identity, demographic and identity in itself. There's a lot that comes with that, but it depends on where you work. And so if you work in London, which I have done, the identity issue probably doesn't even feature as a weight, W-E-I-G-H-T. It doesn't feature as a weight in my life. But as soon as you move out of London as a social worker, even if you just move out of London, the color of your skin becomes heavier. Now, let's just say, on just a psychological level, right? And I'm bringing this up for a reason, because like me, if you as a social worker decide to, as a black social worker, decide to work outside of the cities throughout the UK, then you will notice that the color of your skin becomes an issue, even if it's internal, all right? Then you'll have to consider then for white social workers that the color of their skin becomes an issue if they work in the inner cities where there's a lot of minorities, all right? Their skin color and any other identity along with that may become an extra weight, but the skin color will become a weight. And I remember receiving a call from someone I've interviewed before on my Instagram live, where a white social work student asked me to refer him to a manager that I'd worked with in London to allow him to experience inner city life, inner city social working, because he felt that where he lived and his experience was narrow. So he wanted a broader experience. And so he will experience what I've experienced down in where I work, which is way out of London, all right? So I work in a very, a remote part of town. And, it's 99.999% white, all right? But not just white. My colleagues have used the term, where I work, we're about 30 years behind. Do you know what I mean? So culturally, there is a real difference as well. I've worked in a London borough that is 99.98% white, all right? But that's different from where I work because they're exposed to ethnicity and other ethnicities and culture. So when you're working with people in that respect, you have to understand that the lack of exposure and then their attitudes and the culture means that there are massive gaps in their understanding of who we are as minorities. So let me throw something else in there. My colleagues, I'm the only in my division of the county, I'm the only Black Caribbean social worker, in safeguarding, right? I think maybe our service manager who recently joined might be. Not sure what his ethnicity is, but he looks mixed. Recently joined. But I'm saying this for a reason. Of course, you know me. I want Black and white social workers to listen carefully to this because it's kind of a part of a series of me being a Black social worker, which isn't, the topics that I'm addressing aren't only about the color of my skin, but it's to do with everybody. So stay tuned to what I'm saying, right? So I've worked with families down where I were in this part of town, in this part of the UK, where I'm their first male Black social worker. And I'm going to tell you, before I got into social work, I'd be thinking that there'd be a lot of conflict with families not wanting to see a Black face. But actually, no, I haven't found that. Largely accepting, and some of them treat me really, really like family, I get on with the vast majority of all my cases over the years. So social work isn't as ugly as they make out, but it can be at times, right? And so when I walk up to a house, I've got a lot on my head. What are they going to think of me? Are they going to receive me? Or should I just bowl in there as a social worker and forget what they think about me? These are challenges that we have to work out, and there isn't necessarily a straight answer to that question, in my opinion. However, I've had some experiences that have really deeply frustrated me and caused me to reflect. And I'm going to go into this deeper in a recorded video, but I was dealing with a case and the barrister said to me in the court, Curtis, do you think that the reason why they've found it difficult to work with you and their opinion of you is has so much disdain, do you think it's anything to do with the color of your skin? Now, this is a white, I would say upper middle class at least, barrister who's been doing the job for 30 odd years, right? And he said, Curtis, do you think? And I sat there and I reflected and I didn't rush to answer, okay? I said to them, yes. And he said, well, in the summary, do you want me to bring it up? And I said, no. Why did I say that? Well, I had a battle between the two men on my each shoulder, between the angel and the devil on my shoulder, all right? One was saying, yes, it's an advantage to your case. And the other one said, yeah, but they don't know what they're doing. So how relevant would that be to the case? Now, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I have felt that this family that I worked with a while back, they were racist, but they didn't realize it. Okay? Now, I just want everyone to know that if you say to me, I have black friends, it doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean much to a lot of people of other ethnicity. They're interested in how you're treating them, not how many black friends you've got, right? And that doesn't hide how people perceive how they're treated, right? So I'd been working with this family for a while. I did my absolute best, but what was the theme that kept running through was they felt bullied. So you understand now, I have to reflect on that and think, well, and I've had a meeting with them and said, well, how can I help you feel not bullied when we have our sessions? And they didn't have any answers. So I said to them, well, do you realize that other people are dealing with you much more directly than I am? And they do not have that label. And they said, well, it's just how you make us feel. Now, you have to understand, I'm born in the 70s, by the way. So, I've seen a few things and I've experienced a few things. So I want you to understand that as a professional, when we are trained, we're trained to be professionally curious, and it's our duty to reflect on our experiences and grow and have conversations about them. That is our job, believe it or not. That's the other side of our job. That's behind the curtain of it all. I recognize that I walk with a burden of just my skin color alone, let alone anything else in life. And I have to double think before I work with a family. And if I feel that my ethnicity in a part of the country that doesn't experience many black people, if I can move past that, great. But if that's a barrier, should we pass the case on or should we work with the family? Now, generally, I think we should work with the family. I will stick it out. But there can come a point where that is the barrier. And should the family suffer because of their lack of awareness? So what I'm saying is that I'm walking with this on my head and I have to unpack that over time with the family without saying anything, which means I have to some degree, either code switch or present myself in a more acceptable way, which means I'm denying myself of my own identity just to make a family feel more comfortable. Now, do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? But I'm telling you, that is what has been considered in my head. Now, like I said, when I worked in London, I didn't have to do that, any of that. But when I worked out of London, I had to do that. And I said no more. Now, in saying no more, my presentation then, which is still, in my opinion, professional, as I'm speaking to you now, all right, can be a trigger for people who aren't exposed to me. And they may see my stereotypical aggressions, this is through media, my normal body language and behavior as triggering and may perceive it as aggression. Now, believe me, I've had this in the wide world before. Me just being me, being perceived as aggressive. Yes, also to the police. Right? I've been harassed by police on just a few occasions. And I've had to consider my presentation to avoid things escalating. I'm not an aggressive person, but if I want to be me, I'm thinking, well, what does being me mean? It means that, and the way that I'm talking to you in this podcast isn't how I talk in my home. My vernacular somewhat changes, but in a professional sphere, I have to think before I speak. And then I have to say to myself, and I said to myself a while back, I will no longer do that. I will limit my code switch. But that means that sometimes people will feel bullied or threatened. So I addressed this with the family and said, hold on a minute. I've never raised my voice. I've never, insulted. Why do you feel this way? And it got to a point where after these meetings, some of my colleagues in other teams, we got together and we were discussing a way forward for the family. Believe me, this is just one experience, by the way. And they didn't say it, but they kept me in the meeting to ask me, how do you feel about what you've experienced? And I was reluctant because I do not play the race card easily, right? I'm way too critical to do that. And I said to them, I'm going to be honest with you, you all have been much more direct, a lot more firm than I have, yet they feel bullied by me. My only conclusion, and I've worked really well with them, my only conclusion is that they don't realize that the color of my skin and or the tone of my voice, my accent, might set off some alarms for them, you know? And they said that's what we thought, but we didn't want to say it. I want you to understand that there is a difference between, because black is a broad term, all right? If you look at Africa, North Africa is Arab, parts of it are Arab. And then the further south and the sub-Saharan you go, the more dark-skinned people become. And then you have South Africa, okay, which is a mixture of Europeans and black, and then the European influence. So Africans are diverse. They have different skin tones, different languages, different cultures, and then you have West Indians, yeah? And I guess black is even broader than that, but you have West Indians. So in the UK, we have a lot of Jamaicans, but we have West Indians. And we have a very different history and a very different experience of being black, all right? And it's important to note that what I carry as a black West Indian isn't the same as a African. And in some ways, in the professional environment, our only similarity is the color of our skin, okay? So I want us to be really understanding of that out of London, social working is an interesting space. Now, I want to say that in the light of this, the families that I've worked with, they've been awesome, seriously. Now, apart from some really negative experiences that are new to me because of the color of my skin, they've generally been awesome. I mean, I love these families. They are almost family, some of them. The way that they've received me has been beyond my expectation. They have been awesome. And despite their challenges, they're trying to work through them, the vast majority, you know? So I just want to say hats off to them. I wish I could mention their names, but we can't do that, GDPR and all that. But this particular family, amongst a couple others, have really raised up an awareness in me of sharing with, and the desire to share with you how complex social work can be. Not just for black people, but for white people too. I reflect on how it's made me feel, and I reflect on the fact that sometimes skin color and their perception of you is the barrier to progress. Because I am a strong believer that as a social worker, we have to do a lot of reliance on working relationships with families. They're expecting us to lead the way. But if they don't trust you for their own misunderstood reasons, then the change that we make with the families is going to be disguised compliance or pointless. So there you have it. You can hear me, I'm pausing a lot because it's a lot. That's an experience of me, and there's a lot I haven't said, by the way. But it will come in a video that I will take time out to record in the future. So yeah, thank you for listening. You've heard me I'm still deeping this right now. I'm feeling what I'm saying. And when I feel things, I don't always like to, or I struggle to talk about it until I've processed it fully, But thank you for listening. I don't know what that will do for you, but I think actually, no, let me help you in terms of concluding, actually. I want you to be honest about who you are, okay? I want you to be honest about who you are. I was making a point. Let me go back a little bit. I was mentioning about black social workers, where I work, and this is an intro to another video that's coming. Me being the only black Caribbean social worker that I know anyway, the others are from the South African countries. Zimbabwe, Uganda, lovely set of people. But who isn't? Where I work is great, where the people are lovely anyway. But the people are from those countries are different to me. And so when people in the more remote countries, part of the country, will meet them, they will have experienced African social workers and not Caribbean. And they can see the difference and they can hear the difference. So I would say for the people where I've worked, where I'm working, who experienced that, and the reason why they're experiencing that is because we have a massive shortage of social workers in this country. And so the UK has recruited a lot from abroad. And so it's strange to be in an office where a lot of the staff are African. And then that's the locality's experience. And I'm talking about the professionals. That's their experience of black, because that's pretty much what they're exposed to unless they watch on the TV. But meeting me, it would be new. And every time I've gone to court, they'd be like, oh, where are you from? You're from London. And they're fascinated by that because it's a different world. London is a different world, to where I work now. So hats off to the people that are just curious. And I don't mind curiosity, ask questions. It's ignorance that's the challenge, you know what I mean? But yeah, if I would say to you, know yourself. And what does that mean? Knowing yourself means don't try to change your identity to fit in too much. I'm giving that advice. That's personal advice, yeah? That's what black people have had to do in the professional sphere for a long time. Now, there are some local authorities in London that's not happening, but out of London, black people do that. And we're fitting in. And when people use the term integration, like, when we're talking about immigrants and you've got the nationalists saying we need people to learn to integrate, what they're saying really is, I want them to be like me, make me feel more comfortable. And that's disturbing to hear, because you have to ask yourself, well, what do you have to do to make other people feel comfortable? And that is your battle. I don't have straight answers for that, but one of the recommendations is that you've got to be more comfortable being yourself. And that may be a barrier to your practice, and you have to question, and you and your manager have to be able to have this conversation. What does integrating or adapting really mean in practice? Not as a notion. Now, I've been fortunate. I've had two managers who are happy for me to have this conversation. In fact, they prompt this conversation. What do you have to do, Curtis? What's it like when it comes, in good supervision? What's it like being black down here? I'm a white woman. What's it like for you as a black man? Well, I say I'm a black West Indian. I think it's a barrier, but I'm working through it. Okay. I've had two managers who are happy to have that conversation with me. And that's really a powerful tool for making you settle. But they've always been about that. My previous manager was a white woman who became Muslim and was married to a Muslim. And so she was well aware of a lot of the discrimination in society. She lives on both sides of the fence. And my current manager was just really out there. She says, well, I'm a white woman. You're going to experience a lot of adversity because of the color of your skin. From the get-go when we met. And I thought, I can trust you a bit more. You've made it a safe space because now we can be honest about what it is to be white and what it is to be black. So she's well aware of that. And again, barristers have been aware of it and other professionals have seen it with their eyes and checked in with me. How are you feeling about that, Curtis? They're really disturbed by what they experienced with that family. But I said they don't understand it. And that's another topic. When people are like, anybody is being discriminated against. And believe me, it will happen to you even if you're white. Black families have trouble in large minority groups where social services gets involved. If you're a white social worker, minorities become very afraid and have their own stereotypes. So it's a human issue. It's not a black and white issue. Anyway, I could talk all day about this. My advice is know yourself and be yourself. Know who you are. Don't forget who you are and be who you are. And, make your decisions about how you want to code switch in life and in your profession. But don't do it to the point where you let your identity go and replace it with someone else's. Be careful about that. Take care.